Have you ever tried to use Cursor or WindSurf and it just doesn't solve the problem you're trying to solve? Maybe it grabs the wrong files or creates new files and just kind of overwrites various things, and over time just kind of loses what's happening in your code base. So today I'm going to go ahead and try Repo Prompt, and Repo Prompt has this new feature where you can actually give the entire code base over to a language model that's large enough to handle it. And these days that's something like Grok 3, O1 Pro, and the new Claude Sonnet models. So today we're just going to go ahead and try Repo Prompt, and I have my app here. And what I'm trying to do in my app is basically refactor it so that I should be able to give it larger files to do transcription. So right now, if the file is too large, it will just error out because there is like a 25 megabyte limit to this whole thing. So what I did was I wrote this prompt here in Repo Prompt. And what I did is just tell it to be an architect and also be an engineer. So I've selected the code that I need to have this here. So it's my route, some of the layout code, and also the form itself, where I actually have the code that's currently running. And here's the solution that I have. I basically have outlined what the architect is going to do to review the code, the problem that I'm currently having that I basically just described to you. And then I also have like what I think is a solution for this problem. So as an engineer, thinking like, okay, since this is a problem, obviously after the video is converted, we have to, ensure that the file is under 25 megabytes and add a little bit of overhead. And then split it into optimal chunks just to make sure we have accurate timestamps as well. We're going to go into Claude Sonnet and make sure that's selected. There's a new thinking mode that says extended. So I want to see what extended does here. And then we're just going to say go. And so the goal with Repo Prompt apparently is the fact that you should be able to just give it the code and let it do its thing. And so there's this thing called code map. So it should be able to actually map through the code in your files and kind of give that to the language model as well. I said, before you write any code, I want you to write up a simple suite of tests that we can have the agent run as to verify the code changes are accurate. What I'm doing is I'm forcing the model to write the code of the tests that I want it to pass. The final result that we should write out should just be this big old XML file. So we'll see what comes out of this. So in Repo Prompt, we have architect and we also have engineer up here. So here it says you're a senior engineer whose role is to provide clear, actionable code changes. Let's go ahead and see what happened with Claude. So this is Claude 3.7. So that thought for 2 minutes and 28 seconds. And so this came up with, I think, which is supposed to be the comprehensive overview, the problem, the solution. So after the conversion, check if the audio file is greater than 24 megabytes. That's cool. So I think this is its reasoning plan here. Implementation plan, test suite design. This is great. And this is the code. Okay, those are all the tests. These are really nice updates. I love this detail plan. I'll implement the chunking system that detects these types of things with rate limiting. Wow. And so this was like the last thing was now provide the XML for the implementation. Bro. Yo, my goodness. We have to try this. I want to grab this XML file from Claude and see if it actually nails it first try. Because if it does, boy, we cooked. All right, so now I'm just going to paste this XML in here and look at these changes. Wow. So we have the types that are changed. We also have the transcription form that are changed and the app/API route that also got changed to handle the chunk transcription and subtitle generation, which is different from our previous code. So here in our types file, it looks like we're now tracking the chunked metadata, which is really great. I like this technique. I like this. I'm going to go ahead and accept this. We're going to go to transcription form, which is going to be the actual client side thing. So this basically splits an audio blob into multiple smaller chunks. Look at these comments here. These are really beautiful. I like these descriptions. This is very Pythonic too. Like in Python, people who write frameworks and stuff like to write a lot of these types of details when you're using it. It's super helpful, especially if we're going to come back to reference it later. And I also think it's going to be really helpful for these language models to reference themselves too. So just a FYI. Damn. You know what we had to do is just YOLO, right? Accept all. And the code, I'm just reviewing it here in Cursor. It created these new things like fixed chunk metadata and so forth, but it's not really completely complete. We changed a lot of code over here. And I see the chunk metadata cannot find name chunk metadata. And then in our types, are we even importing them correctly? It basically almost got us there all the way, except for a small little type error. So here's an integration plan. So the document outlines the changes and then even says add the new types, which we did. Wow. Now I'm just going to go back to Tower. I'm just going to stage these changes. I'm going to say, I want to test Cursor's ability to do like linting, what I can do is just kind of give it my implementation plan saying, hey, I just implemented this thing. Can you fix the linting errors? And then what I also have selected is default. So the agent can choose between these models. I didn't want to overcomplicating it by giving it a plan, but I'm hoping that it should be able to fix it and then we should be able to move on. Because that'd be really cool, because this will just fix it pretty much in a couple shots. Let's add the missing interfaces from the type issues. Yes. So here's what's weird. It's like it didn't really realize that I had a file called types that actually has this. So this is kind of like sort of an error on Cursor's part. So I'm going to go types, route, and package and stuff. So I'm going to hit send. And so I'm going to revert the code. We're going to just go ahead and fix the remaining things here. So it's basically just doing this massive cleanup, importing the right things I need at the top for my interfaces and my types. And then fix the remaining type errors and transcript forms. This is great. Okay, I'm going to hit accept. Command C, bun dev to restart the server. Go ahead and refresh. And I think we should be good. All right, so I'm going to do a new transcription now, and I'm going to do the larger file. Generate transcripts. According to the plan, it should be able to chunk it out nicely and kind of do its thing. I really like the code that was generated by Claude 3.7 Sonnet extended thinking through the website. And so that's the power and the difference between having Cursor do this plan and versus something like Repo Prompt and putting it into Claude Sonnet 3.7 extended thinking. For me, I'm probably just going to do this workflow to start, like my ideas. Like I have a very clear idea sometimes of what I want my app to do, and then let Cursor just kind of finish up these final touches. So this is pretty good. Actually, I think it's working right now. So error processing chunk 0 and attempt 1 of 3. This is cool. So now we're seeing the retry logic show up. I think what we have here is the fact that it was able to now work, but now I'm having some issues with the actual stuff failing completely. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just tell it this. It's like, hey, we tried the processing, and then see what Claude Sonnet comes back with. So this extended thinking one. So and paste this into here. Here are the server logs. So I'm basically kind of talking to it like almost like a QA engineer, right? To do this type of things. The chunked requests are being sent with the content type octet stream instead of audio MP3, which is likely causing, dang. Okay. So here is the fix. Wow. It even gave me the XML. Let's just go ahead and copy that XML. Go back to Repo Prompt. And then I should be able to go back and reset files. So the original implementation used blob slice, which doesn't preserve the content type. So it creates a new blob with explicit MP3 audio type. Additionally, we now create a proper file object with file name API requests. That makes more sense. I'm gonna hit accept all. I should be able to bun dev it. Let's go. I'm just gonna try to YOLO because that's all we have here. What could be helpful here, maybe my feedback to the Grok team would be to hit me back with some actual error types that are a little bit more descriptive. Let me just kind of wrap this up here. You know, this bug is going to require some more fixings, but the power of Repo Prompt is really quite amazing. And our goal is to use Repo Prompt to select all of the code so that this actual language model has an understanding of the structure of our code. It doesn't hallucinate and create new files. We're actually controlling how many tokens and context that we are sending to the language model itself, so we fully leverage the intelligence. So the problem I've had, especially using Cursor or using WindSurf, is that when I ask it to do this exact plan, Cursor or WindSurf will just kind of go off crazy and start creating new files. So we're using this new XML output that will allow us to, do the exact task like an architect, produce the engineering code that we need, and then produce it into this XML format. And so what we were able to do is now apply those changes from the XML from the model and then merge them in, and then use basically Cursor to kind of clean up the linting errors and the remaining things that need to happen, which is actually what Cursor is really good at. This is the first time I've actually been able to feel the intelligence of the model, and it's just really impressive. And so what I would just continue here is just continue my prompting, maybe with Claude Sonnet, and maybe take this over into a new chat window with Claude Sonnet Extended Thinking saying, we've tried these and this is kind of where we ended up so far. Please take another look and see if we can fix this remaining issues and so forth. So with that, this is just kind of like a really quick high level run of how I would use Repo Prompt in my current coding flow, you won't believe how fast AI is changing. And that's why I break down the most important updates every single week. No fluff, just what matters in your life. I'm Fernando, and this channel is where AI meets real life. Share your thoughts below because I read every single comment to pick the topics for next week. And make sure you hit that subscribe button because next week we got something even bigger. See you in the live streams.